Connecting Baltics through sport. The 8th edition of the Nord Stream race is set for a glorious start in Kiel. Only the best teams from the national sailing leagues of Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Finland and Russia have qualified. Welcome to Kiel, a city rich in maritime history, with its impressive naval base and, of course, Kiel Week itself. Are you ready to race 1,000 nautical miles across the Baltic Sea?
First blood in the Nord Stream race has already gone to Åländska Segelsällskapet from Finland. My name's Andy Rice, and with Suzanne Salmonen, we have been commentating already on the first race of the day, which was the welcome race. It was sort of like a passage race up through Kiel Bay. It was incredibly busy. Thousands of boats out here. That's no exaggeration. And there were one or two transport ships out there as well, which had an effect on the race.
True, Andy, and it was very exciting actually because we had less than a boat length between two of the boats at the finish line. So even though it was a 2-hour race, it was these last meters that made the decision for the placements of the sailors. Super exciting.
Yeah, it was. It was always in doubt. Åländska Segelsällskapet, they did lead for most of the race. But there were still moments where, through no fault of their own, just the way the wind was changing, it was under threat. But in the end, they got the win they deserved.
Yes, as you said, the Åländska Segelsällskapet. You need to work on your O's there. Åländska Segelsällskapet from Finland made a great job there and led like 99% of the race. So great job from the Finnish guys.
Well, we've got some more racing coming up, and we're only just under 3 minutes away from the start of what will be the first of the Windward Leeward races. So it's going to be up-down racing, a bit more conventional. Hopefully no shipping boats coming through the middle of the course, but we never know. And we haven't seen the Jenicas used yet. We haven't seen the big sails unfurled from the front of the boat. That more than doubles the sail area, sometimes doubles the speed of the boat as well. Also, it increases the margin of error as well. There's plenty of things you can get wrong in terms of mucking up a maneuver for different reasons. So a lot for the sailors to learn. They've only had 2 days of training on these boats. Let's not forget that. So if we see some bad mistakes out there, we should forgive them for the fact that they're really very new to these Club Swan 50s.
Yes, they are, but I think we will see some, because we have some knowledge on every boat. For example, the Danes here, it's the first time that the Royal Danish Yacht Club will participate in the Nord Stream race, but they have some sailors on board, as we've called them before, the Duracell twins, the blonde two twins here on the boat who have a lot of Club Swan 50 experience. We see one here in between the other persons, and so there are experienced sailors on board every team, and now we only have I think that was the 1 minute for the start. I think maybe
could well be. We got just 1 minute showing up on the screen now, so there might be a bit of a time lag on that, but we are coming into the business end of the start of race 2 on the first day of the 2019 edition of the Nord Stream race. Remembering that overall this is 1,000 miles of racing through the Baltic Sea from Germany through to Russia. And now we've got just over 30 seconds coming into the start. We've got 5 boats jostling for position on the start line. We're on board with the Danish team, skippered by Peter Vara at the helm there. Very experienced helmsman, backed up by a young crew with, I think you said, Suzanne, earlier, the youngest overall age, the youngest average age of any of these teams. 10 seconds to go. And at the moment, it's Russia lining up at the right-hand end of the line. Then along the line, Germany. In the middle, Finland and Denmark fighting hard for position. And then Sweden on the far left of the line. Is it going to be a clean start? It looks like it will be a clean start. So hopefully no boats having to go back this time.
This team that we see in the picture here are really having a trouble with their start. You can see they're packed into other boats here to the right of them. Oh, is that the mark they hit, or
maybe that? So it's a very biased end of the line, and there's some bad body language on board the Danish boat right now.
We're good at reading them now after a couple of hours, and these aren't two not unhappy twins we have going on there, and now they're also getting a boat on top of them. This is not a good start for the Danes, and unfortunately they also had another bad start. So this is showing up a little bit like a weakness here for the Danes. They have to tack again in a little while. Someone who got a super good start are the Swedes, actually all the way down to leeward side of the line. We see them here, bow forward from the other ones as well. And actually, I remember this from last year because Christian Harding, the skipper, and Sander Sandqvist were also racing in most of the Nord Stream race last year for the Swedish team, and they were having good starts all the time. They are really good at starting. So maybe this is something that's going to be a force for them.
Well, it looked like it was pin end biased, left-hand end biased end of the start line, which they won. So certainly early advantage, you would say, has gone to the Swedes, but they don't control the race. They're very much controlled by the other boats that have started to windward of them. We're back on board with the Danes, who have a lot of work to do after a really poor start, and they're already fighting for seconds. There's no clear air for them. Oh, it looks like, are they doing a penalty turn?
Because of the mark, probably. I think either they hit someone or they hit the mark. I just saw some shaking in the camera and I heard some in the start. So I think something must have happened there. So yeah, probably it was right of them to do a penalty.
As if the start wasn't bad enough already, it gets even worse with the penalty turn.
Yes, and remember this race is way shorter, so this will be more expensive. It's a bigger part of the race now, and now we can see in the graphics that the Danish are turning around. So then we have these three boats continuing out to the left side of the course. I think it's
the Germans actually look like they have a
bow forward here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd fancy being the Germans out of any of those boats right now.
Yeah, true. They're actually shown as if they're first or second right now. Sorry, on this leaderboard.
But in terms of their tactical positioning, I would say that they look pretty strong. And able to hold on the other two boats. They are really controlling the destiny of the other two boats to leeward of them at the moment. That's the Russians and the Swedes, who I don't think would be in a position to cross. Oh, sorry. So I'm looking also at the Finns.
Yes. Yeah, so this is an up-down course, as we call it, and it's they have this start line, then they're going up to the top mark, they're going down again, and then around like this for 2 laps. So it's going to be way more like normal inshore racing as we know it. It's going to be way more action, and as you said before, we're going to see some sails up and down, the tactics will. We have the Russians all the way to the right side, as we see here.
Yes,
I love splits. It's always exciting to see splits, right?
It is, yeah, because it's a game of gambling, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Who's going to come out on top? And I wonder how much sense any of these tacticians have of whether they're going to the correct side of the course or not, or whether they're just guessing. Because there may well be a pattern out there, but have they had enough opportunity to research the patterns before the start of this first race? I suspect not, because, I mean, they really had only just had time to roll up the sails and have a sandwich since the end of the last race.
Yeah, kind of like us. We also just had a squeezed down a sandwich, and then we're back on again. And the same is with the sailors. They just needed to get some power bars in, something to drink, and then they are already preparing, retrieving the boat, everything. So it's a long day for these sailors. They went out at approximately 8 this morning. So this is going to be a very tiring day for them.
And there's a certain party that they and other people have to attend this evening as well. So probably all they want to do at the end of the day is have a bit of a rest. But you've actually got a fairly posh party to go along to this evening.
Yes, we do. Tonight will be the opening dinner of the Nord Stream race 2019 in Kiel. So the sailors will, after this, having to change their sailing gear out with a suit and go for dinner with all the sponsors and the organizers and so on. So they are definitely going to be tired tomorrow, but they need to be on tomorrow because tomorrow is their first offshore race here at the Nord Stream race. So it is, it's full on this program.
Yes, non-stop.
Yeah. It is.
I bet you some sailors will turn up in their sailing best, which will be flip-flops. Some of them will be wearing flip-flops, I guarantee you.
I think they got some email out that it was a non-flip-flop event, but let's see. I'm a little bit like you. I know the sailors, and they prefer sailing shoes or flip-flops, but yeah. So KSS is in the lead now. As we can see, they are far out on the left, whereas the Russians are far out on the right. And this is, as a commentator, it's always nice with some splits because then we can try to guess where the best side is.
So are we going to have a gamble on this then?
Do we?
Which side do you want to take?
Well,
ladies first.
I think looking at the Russians' performance on the last race, I must say that the Russians, I think they seem as if they are very good in taking like the right tactical decisions. But since I live in Sweden, I should be cheering for them. So I don't know, Andy. You can pick first.
All right, I'm gonna say Russians then.
Okay.
On the right-hand side, I'm gonna say the right-hand side.
Okay. So I'm gonna cheer for the Swedish, German, and Finnish on the left side.
Okay.
Oh, this is gonna be exciting.
And whoever loses buys the sausages at Kiel Week.
Yes, the bratwurst.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a deal, Andy. Yeah. So this is what we have going on. We have a split of the two boats to the right and 3 boats here in the bottom of our screen to the left side of the course.
And the Swedes won that start, but they weren't able to tack until the Germans decided to tack. So the question now is, have the Swedes been able to tack where they wanted to? And it's going to be interesting to see how these 3 on this side of the course do. They haven't got an awful lot of ley line left to play with. I think Sweden already quite high up on the ley line, so that maybe there's only one tack left for them to do, which will be close to the windward mark at the top.
They have committed themselves quite much to that left side, yes. And as we see here on the graphics in the left corner, in the bottom, we can see that they are very close to the ley lines, both of the groups, to the left and to the right. So, yeah, it is very... It's banging the corners, as we say. It's a little bit risky, but all of them are doing it. So it's really going to show off who's going to be best here, right or left. Well, your team or my team.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that graphic bottom left, I tend to think that you're doing quite well at the moment on the left-hand side.
Yes. I'm afraid to. It's going to be a bratwurst on you, Andy.
Yes.
No, but not. It ain't over. We've talked about this before, Andy. We cannot. Like, the race has only been going on for a couple of minutes now, and they're halfway in the upwind, so we still have a lot to go. So these 5 teams that are racing, maybe you should talk a little bit about why these teams are in the race. I mean, if someone new has come here on this...
Well, that's true. We talked through that at the beginning of the show, but that was some 3 hours ago. So these are the best teams to have emerged out of the league racing, the inter-club racing that happens across pretty much every country in Europe and a few others outside of Europe these days. And so they're racing in flights of J70 sports boats throughout the season. And then a bit like sort of the football league competitions that we have in different countries, like the Premiership in my country in the UK, and the Bundesliga in Germany. Whoever emerges out of as the top performer, as the champion of their country, gets the right to race one of these Club Swan 50s, which is a completely different beast. Much bigger, much more powerful, a crew of 10 instead of a crew of 4. So it's like taking doing really well in a go-kart championship and suddenly being given a Formula One car to drive.
Yes.
And they've had 2 days to practice in these Formula One cars before they're about to take them 1,000 miles across the Baltic Sea. So it's a huge learning curve that they're going through right now. And every moment of these races that they're going through, they are learning more and more about how these boats behave and also what their opposition is like.
Yeah, and these 5 stopovers that we then have in the Nord Stream race are then here in Kiel in Germany. And we have a stopover in Copenhagen. We have the next one after Copenhagen is Stockholm, then Helsinki, and then the finish line is in St. Petersburg. And these are also the 5 representing countries in the Nord Stream race. So we have Norddeutscher Regattaverein, which is the German club. And then we have Kongelig Dansk Yachtklub, the Royal Danish Yacht Club, which is the Danish that we see here in the picture. Then we have Kungliga Svenska Segelsällskapet, which is the Royal Swedish Yacht Club, Ålandska Segelsällskapet from Finland, and Leviathan. How do you say it? You said it so nice. Leviathan sailing team from Russia. So they are all the winning, as you said, in those national leagues. They're all the winning clubs and allowed to represent their country in this amazing race.
So they're very familiar with the format of this racing, this up-down windward-leeward racing that we're doing. They're just not used to doing it in 50-foot, highly powerful boats that are designed mainly for going offshore, not for doing this close-quarters, round-the-cans racing, as we call it. And the challenge of that is not only their lack of familiarity with the boats, but also the gear on these boats, the way that the boats are set up technically, they're not really equipped for fast sail handling around short courses. So that gives them a lot of challenges to deal with. And the team that keeps it simple, doesn't try to do anything too complicated or too fancy, is probably going to do well, because the other teams that try to get carried away with doing things in a really fancy way are probably going to end up making mistakes.
Yeah, I was speaking with the sailors the last couple of days. My impression is that everyone is saying, yes, we want to win. Of course, that's the goal, but we also just want to get around the inshore races and the offshore races in one piece, because there can be, like when they're racing in these inshore races, there can be damages made to the boat if they're sailing too close to each other. In the offshore races, there's a lot of power and wind for the boat. So it's really important. Also, there's kind of like a survival aspect to this as well. And so there are 2 goals: winning, but also just not breaking anything. And it is extreme sailing, this. So
well, the offshore stuff is this inshore racing. If they're coming into a mark close on with 2 or 3 other boats, are they actually going to remember what they said on shore, that we're going to just, not be too ambitious, not be too aggressive?
No. Yeah, they have too much of competition, anxious inside themselves there, that's for sure.
Yeah, the red mist will descend, and they will be fighting tooth and nail for every space and every place around these marks if there is an opportunity. Unfortunately for the Danes, it doesn't look like they're going to get much of a look in on this race. That bad start, compounded by having to take a penalty turn, has put them right out of the action right now.
Yeah, they had a bad start, and after that they also had a penalty turn, and that has just set them back more than 400 meters right now in this race. So this is not a good start. But someone who had a good start and is still in the lead are the Swedish ones here in the picture right now. Looking tense in some way. They're looking focused, right?
Oh, yeah. I wasn't thinking tense, but maybe focused, yes. I think I maybe slightly nervous being at the lead of the race and still being early on in the Nord Stream race. But no, I mean, they did the hard work winning that pin end of the line. That was the favoured end of the line. They didn't actually have a lot of competition for it. The fleet wasn't fighting that hard for that end of the line, but it did look like the correct end of the line to go for. And it certainly put them into a winning position right now.
A beautiful start. And again, as I said a little bit earlier on, KSSS did this last year as well in the Nord Stream race. Super good start in the inshore races, and I think this is a weapon from their side, and I'm looking forward to see if they can keep that in the future, because the other teams will get to know the boat better, and the time on distance game for the start. So yeah, here we see the teams making ready, the Swedish team here making ready for the going around the top mark, putting up that sail we've been waiting for, Andy.
Oh, so long.
Yes.
So long.
Finally.
And it's partly because there's not only is it exciting to see these boats go at full speed downwind with the Jenica, but they're really hard sails to handle. And we've seen people drop these sails in the water before. And these will be nervous moments for the people on the front of the boat, because there's so much that they can get wrong. If they get their timing wrong, things have got to go up in the right order, and everyone's got to remember their job.
And we just saw this person like going underneath the jib in the tack here, and everything, as you said, is so important that you remember to have everything in its right place. Even that person has to be there on the deck helping the sail under or over the other sails. So yeah, exciting. Here I would have liked to seen a hoist of the asymmetrical spinnaker here, the Jenica, a little bit faster, but yeah, we don't have them in the picture right now, but we have the Germans on the second spot, rounding right now and also preparing themselves for a Jenica hoist. And here we have the Swedes, not really fully blown.
It's not looking very exciting, but they have got that Jenica up and pulling. And around go Germany in second place. They also had a pretty good start, and they're rewarded with second place at the first rounding mark.
Yeah, they have little offset marks, I think. We will see the Germans. Yeah, they're approaching it, and now they will start hoisting. And yeah, as we see in front of the pictures, the Swedes have got it nice up and full with wind now. Here we see the Germans fighting to get that last piece of the Jenica up and also the jib down. The next boat around comes here in the picture. That's the Finnish guys. Again, look, I just love these images of the sailors that are timing their jumps to get the spinnaker, the asymmetrical spinnaker up. And here it is. They had a really nice set, I think, actually.
Yeah, they did. I would say all the ones we've seen so far have been...
they went a little bit higher than the Germans, and I think that was a good thing for them. Maybe they can take the wind a little bit away from the Germans, but also that when you go a little bit higher in these light winds, you'll most likely have a better filled Jenica, like in faster, because if you go low, it will be too slow. But
yes,
look beautiful from the Finnish side. And then I'm sorry to say, but your side, Andy,
it's not done so well. So yeah, I'm buying the sausages, and it wasn't even close, was it? I mean, they're really some way back, are the Russians.
Yes.
120 meters behind the third place, Orlandska Segelsagskapet.
Yeah, great pronunciation there, actually, honestly. No.
But, I mean, we're seeing as big gaps now in this small race as we were in the long race earlier today.
Yes, that's actually a bit weird when we're on such a small course, but yeah, a lot can still happen. If they can lose that much on the right side, they can gain it somewhere else as well. So it's going to be, yeah, they have 2 laps to go around on this course, so it will be, the Russians can still give the other ones a little fight, I hope.
But it's surprising how much the left-hand side of that first beat paid.
Yeah. It is actually, and also how self-confident the Swedish were to just go out there and all the way to a ley line. I mean, that they banked that corner. Literally, they almost tacked on the ley line, and yeah, that's quite a confident tactician on board there, Sandra Sandqvist. So,
well,
yeah.
the pin end of the line was biased as well. I wondered if there was a late wind shift, and the race,
yes,
started.
Yeah.
But actually, the whole course was skewed from the moment that they started, maybe. So
yeah.
It was quite a left-hand biased track for that reason, perhaps.
Could be. And you want to know a Danish expression? It's called rosinen i pølsen, which is called the raisin in the sausage end. So this is what they are now. They are the dead last right now.
What's the opposite of the sausage end? If you're racing at the sausage
I have no. This saying doesn't make sense, but if Danes are watching this, they know what I mean with rosinen i pølsen. And directly translated is the raisin in the sausage end.
Sausages are a good thing. I don't see why. Why is that the sausage end?
I don't know. It's an expression. It's directly translated, but at least that's what they are here in the picture. They are dead last, which that expression means, Andy.
Yes.
No, but it's an expensive one. I don't know if I need glasses or it says 600 meters behind the others.
Yes.
And that is, yes, and that is a little bit heartbreaking to see as a Dane, I must say, especially when we were thinking about we didn't have this big of a distance before in the longer race. So this is horrible for the Danes.
They might as well stop. I mean, they might as well stop and have a sausage.
Yes, and a raisin as well. No, yeah, but it is. Now they are like everything. They will at least have the wind first as the ones behind. We can see that on the arrows as well in the picture, and yeah, they just have to see if they can. Another Danish expression is to see if they can find pull a rabbit out of the hat.
Yeah, we have that.
You do?
Yeah,
in
we
Britain
share that
as well?
one. Yeah.
How is it said perfectly in British then?
They need to pull a rabbit out of a hat.
The same.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
They need to do that. So forget about the raisin in the sausage and go for the rabbit out of the hat, Danes.
Well, the skipper of the Danish team, Peter Varro, remember he said in the video that we showed earlier that they don't necessarily expect to win, but they do intend to improve every day and race by race. Well, they've given themselves every opportunity to improve after this race.
Yes.
You can hope that they can only get better from here.
But they are. Peter is a very funny man, I must say. He's very calm, and but he has a great sense of humor and always very positive. And one of the other camera guys said to me the other day, like, "Wow, he's always so positive," and he is. He's really positive, and he is so fan of his crew. He only has young guys with him. I think that they are, when I'm listening to the teams talking with each other, they're definitely the happiest team on the dock these days. Yes, so I'm sure that this good atmosphere on their boat will kick in, especially when they're ranked 5th right now in this race. They will need this positive spirit.
Yeah. So the Swedes on the right-hand side with a healthy lead of 125 meters over the Germans, closer to picture. And going back down the same side of the track that served them so well on the way up the track. So it's all about this side of the course right now. And only one boat has jibed away into the middle.
The Germans moving very quietly on the boat. We can see here one of them was walking like a cat, the other one more like an elephant. But yeah, they are. It is about trying to walk like a cat in these conditions, and every little vibration into the boat can actually. They're making ready for a jibe now. This will be nice to watch in this angle. But every maneuver needs to be done quietly and try not to shake the boat. Even though they're running, they're trying to really move as quiet as they can. Not pulling here. They will do it as fast as they can. But
driving that enormous Jenica as effectively as possible, trying to stop it hourglassing, not twist during the maneuver, which they've done beautifully. That's a really well executed jibe by the Germans. And the Swedes have also jibed. You can see in the graphic bottom left that the lead boat has jibed, and the boat that was first to jibe were the Finns. Ålandska Segelskapet.
No, it was great. The O was great. Ålandska Segelsällskapet.
Segelsällskapet.
So I just Googled how big this asymmetrical spinnaker is in the Club's 150s. And how big is your house, Andy?
Oh, we don't measure that. We just measure in bedrooms. So I've no clue.
In Britain you do.
Yeah,
true.
No
okay.
clue.
Okay, I can say I live in a 80 square meter apartment. And this spinnaker is 235 square meters.
Wow.
So that means that if I need to say to the guys, no worry, I'll take the Jenaker home and dry it in my apartment, it would go like 2-3 times through the apartment.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it just gives a perspective how big these spinnakers are. And seeing them here in the picture, like if you see how little a person is compared to the spinnakers, these asymmetrical spinnakers, they are huge.
And do you know if they have smaller sails for stronger conditions, or is it that sail all the way through the wind range? They don't have the full complement of sails on these boats, do they, for this race?
No, I don't think so. We saw that second jib coming up before in the last race, and then they have these the mainsail and the jib. I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah, so they've got to be careful how they handle these sails.
In that sense, you mean that they haven't got spare sails with them?
Well, spares, but also, do they have smaller Jenicas to use in stronger conditions?
No, this is the
only one.
Yeah. So it's and now you said they have to be careful. Yes, they do, because last year we had some ripping in the sails, and it actually was costing the sailors some very important positions. So it is about thinking about the gear. It's the gear you have, and you can repair it in your stopovers. But it's like this with everything on the boat. It could be something else. It could be a batten. It could be something on the hull. So it's important. It's about, that's a part of winning. That is keeping your boat in one piece, actually.
Yeah.
And the sails.
And especially in these early days when you're learning the boat, and you're learning each other as a team. If you haven't worked together before as a team, it's really, really easy to get things wrong and drop it in the water.
So here in the Swedes, we have they were again on the same side as they were on the upwind. They choose to take the left side again. So they're a fan of it, and yeah, so far it looked pretty good. I think yes, they are in the graphics down to the left corner. They are the dark orange kind of gold imaged boat, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So they're clearly ahead of the other ones, and look as if they have enough breeze to go deep towards the gate that they have to round in a second. And probably they will take that gate to the left side of... they have two possible gate marks to round, as we see here in the overall graphics. So these two dots are around... or these two circles are around the two gate marks, and they can choose which one of them they want to round. They have to round them from the inside and out. And I'm quite sure the Swedes will take the left one.
The left one to take them up the left-hand side of the course, same as before.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
Okay. That's quite a big manoeuvre at the bottom. It's an extra jibe. But if they really want to take the left-hand side of the course, it's probably an extra jibe worth taking.
Oh.
So, Sweden still coming down on port jibe, crossing comfortably ahead of the other boats. And doing just under 8 knots of boat speed. Åländska Segelsällskapet on the opposite jibe. Just going into a jibe as I speak. And a close battle for second between the two boats on the left of picture. Germany and Finland fighting it out for second place. Sweden still well in front, more than 100 meters in front.
Yeah, we can see here in the graphics to the left bottom corner that they're super close, and they're approaching this. This is, as we see as well in the pictures now, they're approaching this last little bit towards the bottom mark, making ready to round it. And actually, we just got a little update, Andy, in that graphics in the left bottom corner. Now they're quite close, but before there was like one that was more gold in the color. That's the first place, and we have the more yellow one is the bronze position, and then the gray one is the silver. And these two ones are the ones that are bronze and silver right now in the positions.
In the overall positions,
and
is it? Or in...
Yes,
yeah.
In the overall. And right now, rounding this mark is the ones in the gold position. It's the Swedes.
Just look at
looks.
So we're looking at the Swedes going round, but I hope we can see to the left that second and third have jibed too early. They're above their ley line, and their Jenicas are barely filling. So that in their match race against each other, they are missing the bigger picture. They're just letting the Swedes get away from them. So this is really slow and very expensive for Finland, trying to get to this mark, but not really having the angle to do it.
It's as if they don't really can decide if they should go up and grab the wind or they should just screw it and just take down the Ginniker. It's the decision they have to take. And right now they're just going to go like, okay, let's just... I think they're going to jibe, actually, maybe. With
Germany is round, so Germany is going to get out of this hole in a very short space of time. I think the Finns are going to lose a lot of ground here because they've got 2 extra jibes to do, and they've got no speed to do it with.
The Swedes just got away with a nice ley line and then a lot of speed around the bottom marks, and this is not the case for example, the Germans. Look at them now. They are quite slow here, and I think it's even worse if we take a look at the finish in a second. They're still not around the bottom marks. What an amazing job from the Swedish. This just shows how great the Swedes have done this course so far. And they're actually on the way out to the right side, which is a little bit surprising to me.
That is surprising, actually, isn't it? So, but maybe they're, well, obviously they're seeing things out there that we can't see. So maybe the wind has changed from side to side. And... the boats that got the best start went to the left-hand side, and maybe that made the left look good. Maybe there's not actually that much difference between left and right.
Or maybe it's bouncing back and forth. That's also normal to see on a short course like this. Then it's right, then it's left, then it's right, then it's left. It could be like this, but still, if I was the Swedes, I would maybe take a little tack in and just put myself a little bit...
to protect a little bit.
But I'm also I think I'm a safe sailor. As I know the Swedes, as we saw in the last upwind, they're not afraid of banging corners, so they don't mind taking this risk. So let's see if they're gonna be the defending mode or if they're gonna be attacking mode.
Yeah. Well, maybe they think they're on a lift and they don't want to attack on a lift, but for whatever reason, the Swedes are carrying on. So we're seeing a big split develop between Sweden on the right, Germany on the left. And Finland, who was neck and neck with Germany and in the controlling position because they were on that converging jibe with the Germans, on starboard jibe. They could have jibed whenever they wanted. Well, the Finns, for whatever reason, jibed much too soon, and they gave themselves too much work to do, and they've ended up giving away about 80 meters to the Germans. So a really poor tactical decision by the Finns has cost them quite badly.
And now we have the finish here in the picture. And they are really concentrated and thinking about what their next move should be. They're also on the way out to the same side as the Swedes, so the right side look as if they are happy about that. And we see that again in the bottom left corner in the graphics that they are in the yellow boat. In the colors, it means that they're in bronze position right now, the Finnish ones. So they lost, yes, compared to the Germans, but they're still in third here in our overall rankings of this race. But catching in on them is the Russians, who are taking the other side. So we're again having a split left or right. What do you say, Andy, this time?
Oh, this is difficult. It's a little bit harder to say now because, well, it's not a fair bet now because we've got the Swedes way in front. So I don't really know how we call this.
I would say that more maybe compared to the Russians and the Finnish then. Or is that also too far of a distance, you think?
I don't think there's any... we haven't really got any boats that are neck and neck with each other. We've got Sweden first on the right. We've got Germany second on the left. We've got the Finns third on the right. We've got Russia fourth on the left. It's all very symmetrical in that respect, but none of the boats are sort of level pegging with each other.
No, true. But I think one of the sides will be better than the other. I'm quite sure. So we will have, maybe it will more be in between Finland and Germany again. Like maybe Finland can try to catch up on their mistake at the bottom mark towards the Germans or something like that. It's just really, it's amazing to see that they are literally going out on the ley lines, because normally in these boats that are not... like they're one hull, they're easy to maneuver around, fairly easy with 10 persons. Yeah, it's funny they don't put in a little bit more text. But the Germans have tacked there towards the middle of the course, and as well have the Swedes. So we will have some kind of a meeting. We don't know the distance yet. Maybe it will, but I think it will be. At least we'll have them in the same picture at some point.
All right. Well, okay. So I'm going to say Germany then.
You are? Whoa. Whoa. You said that the distance was too much before, huh, Andy? Now it's going to be exciting. And yeah, I must say, if the Swedes are going to lose to Germany here, I think they should turn off the live commentating next time they are making their tactics, because we told them that they had to cover up.
Oh, you did. You certainly did. You've been...
Yeah. No, but I'm not a risky sailor either. I've always been like rather on the safe side, and rather just win with one boat length than with like 400, if you know what I mean. It doesn't make a difference.
No,
in the
sure.
scoring.
That's the match racer in you.
Yes. So, yeah. And right now, I wish they would have tuned in on this live Nord Stream race broadcast.
You told them. Yes. You absolutely told them. I mean, this, especially when the Swedes did so well on the other side of the course on the previous leg. What was making the right-hand side so attractive? Well, we will see on the cross who actually comes off best.
Yes, but also another thing you can see here on the scoreboard right now is that the Finnish also lost to the Russians. So it looks as if the left side has been better again.
Okay.
So let's see, as you said, when the crossing actually, when we'll be able to see it. And the bottom left corner, it looks as if the Swedes are still a little bit high compared to the Germans. Oh, exciting, Andy. I love this. I love when they're so, like, even though they're coming from their side of the course, they're actually it's going to be exciting. So
I just wonder why the Swedes were so keen on doing their own thing and going so far out to one side, because there was no real big gain to be made by doing that.
And
so we're coming up to that cross soon. Just bottom left behind the graphic, you can see Sweden coming into picture.
Yeah, and up actually in the left corner, in the top of the left corner, we have the overall ranking. I know it's only had 2 inshore races so far, or are about to have our second here. But if the race would stop this afternoon or after this race, the Germans would win the Nord Stream race. So this is a good indication for us to also, if you take every race into account. Or now it's the finish. So yeah, it is just showing that we sum up all the races during the whole Nord Stream race. Right now we have 2 races to sum up, and after St. Petersburg we'll have a lot of inshore races and 4 offshore races to sum up in the overall result. So yeah. That's always exciting.
So the running leaderboard, but as far as this race is concerned, not as much of a worry for the Swedes as I thought. So in the end, Sweden still crosses Germany relatively comfortably.
But it's not with a lot, Andy, and I think they did a big tactical mistake here. They should have been more defending, and because if it had just been 0.02 knots more for the Germans on that left side, they would have actually been behind now. So I think it is very, very important that you are able to also put some things in the bank, as you say.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but let's see.
And they have. So this time they haven't made the same mistake twice.
No. And actually now it looks as if they actually have tacked on the Germans to kind of How is it to tack on top of them, or is it to tack along them? I don't really know, Andy.
I think along them. That's what we call a loose cover.
Yes, exactly. So they're not really... otherwise, they would have bunched the Germans away, and then there would have been a new battle. But now the Swedes are just covering them. And again, I like that decision from the Swedes, that they're just going safe. And the Germans are able to hang on there. So it looks pretty peacefully, actually.
It does, yeah. So now Germany has to hope that it's got a little bit more of a boat speed edge and can start to attack the Swedes from that position, because they have clear air. But that's a good defensive position by the Swedes. It's not aggressive, but it's not really giving Germany any opportunities to break away.
Yeah, and they are I think they're a little bit more than halfway through the course right now. So they're approaching the top marks. And it's going to be exciting to see as well the Russians. We don't have them in the picture right now, but they're kind of behind us here in the camera angle. So they are also going to be quite close for this top. For the top mark rounding in this top 3. Here we see the speeds as well. In the Swedes are going 4.9 knots, and the other ones are going more like 5 point something knots. So a little bit slower here from the Swedes. Maybe they didn't wash their boat properly this morning. I actually saw it was on the Danish boat. They made some last diving this morning to try to get some of this grass away from underneath the boats.
Okay. Well, the other thing that we observed from the welcome race earlier was how differently the Germans set up their trim on their mainsail.
Yes.
They pull their boom way up to windward. It seems to give them more height than the other teams. Maybe their speed through the water is not always as high, but
look how close they are here. It's amazing to watch. Only 27 meters here of a distance. We can see here in these amazing footage as well that it is literally bow to bow. If the Germans would tack, they would be right where the Swedes are. So it is really close now, and I love to see that after they've been racing for how long now? Half an hour or something. So that is amazing with these boats. They're so equal and so You said the Germans have a little bit of different trim, but anyhow they manage all the sailors to get the fastest out of their boat and actually be the best and fastest around the course. And the Germans and the Swedes are doing an amazing job with that, leading the race right now. I think the Germans are all the way a little bit faster, right? Can it be because of that twist, you think, Andy?
Well, it looks so significant that I would have thought it's got to have an effect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And when are the others going to notice? Or the thing is, even if you notice it, do you dare try something different yourself if you haven't tried it before? I mean,
we in the match racing boat that I raced previously, also at the games, was we did it a lot. All the teams did. We had the sail twisted like this to kind of in the light winds, and I know as well that some of the Germans on this boat, they were actually, I had a German training partner, and they were actually her training partners from Germany. Okay. So they were also racing. So they have raced in these smaller boats, especially Sven-Erik Horsch, who's the skipper. He did it a lot. So maybe he took that knowledge from that boat into the Swan 50s.
Oh,
here.
right, okay.
Could have been, I don't know, but that could be a guess from my side, because it's quite equal to the Elliott, how we trimmed that one.
To me, it's such a strange look to pull your boom that far above the centre line of the boat.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going to be a break, and you just...
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah. But it's you also ease the sheet a little bit, and then you are looking up you're sitting underneath the main kind of and looking up, and then you're making sure that the batten in the top is the one that opens up. And that can be, in this way you don't lose that much height by doing it the twist. So let's see if it will pay off, because soon the Germans have to tack. They're all the way at the right ley line now, both of the teams here, Sweden and Germany.
And you can see with Åländska Segelsällskapet that it was a really expensive maneuver for them at the bottom mark, because they were level with the Germans, and now they're 150 meters behind. And for the Russians to be able to catch them and overtake them from the Finns being in such a strong attacking position on that first run. They were the first boat to jibe away. That moved them up into second ahead of the Germans. Mm. And then they threw it all away. Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
And bearing in mind, one of the sailors, at least one of the sailors on there is a good 49er sailor. Mm-hmm. They know about angles. They know about the kind of angles that you can do on an asymmetric boat, but also the angles you can't do, because... Unlike on a conventional boat with a spinnaker where you've got a spinnaker pole, you can almost sail any angle you want downwind. With these boats, you try and sail these boats dead downwind, they just don't like it. They hate it.
And that's also the asymmetrical spinnaker, the design of it, that you need to go up and get the angle. Otherwise, you'll be dead. And of course, if it's a lot of breeze, you can go deep because there will be just wind everywhere. But in these conditions, it's all about you cannot go too low compared to the wind, then you'll just, as you said, it will be a break. And at the bottom mark, I think the Finnish couldn't really decide if they should just go dead low towards the mark or they should go up and get the wind. It's kind of like, oh, can we, a hard decision, but very, very
expensive. Two drives is
expensive.
really difficult to do as well.
Yeah.
But sailing dead downwind for as long as they did is also really, really slow.
Yes.
It's amazing how these boats stop.
Yeah, it is. That's also because they're light boats. They're accelerating super fast, but they don't have the same momentum as heavy boats. The heavier boats have a kind of a momentum, so these boats will also stop faster. So it's a part of the game. But yeah, it's amazing to race boats like this because the acceleration is the funniest part of it, and that you can actually feel that if you move your body from one side to the other, that it actually helps. That's the coolest part. Yeah. So, and especially if you trim 10 persons from one side to the other, or in the other race, as we saw from the back of the boat to the front of the boat to kind of like lift the aft out of the water a little bit, it actually has an influence. And that is cool as a sailor. Even though you're just there and don't have a task on that upwind, you're still an important thing for the team.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. Otherwise, you say you're not in Denmark. You say you're just a beef on the deck to compensate for the weight. But it's nicer to have an influence, actually.
Yeah.
So. Here we have the Germans on their approach here towards the top mark. We should be having the Swedes.
Yeah, I'm wondering why we're... Is it because we have a German cameraman?
Maybe. It looks as if they're the only one outside Kielerwoche here, and from our commentator perspective, it really I can assure you there are more than like a lot of 100 boats out here outside Kieler, this Kielerwoche Schilksee harbor. But the Swedes are still in the lead, and I think the whole wind turned a little bit to the left. Maybe, although the Russians and the Finns don't really seem to have gained very much. No, and also compared to the graphics, the Swedes were a little bit over the ley line here, but I think they were on a ley line actually. Here comes up the Jenneker in the picture. They seem a little bit tired to me. No, but it's actually a difficult thing. This was hoisting the Jenneker because we saw that previously on the other camera angle that there are two persons having to jump, and you need to time whenever you jump and grab to the halyard and pull it up. So they don't even pull; they actually use their body weight as weight to get the halyard up.
Like ringing a bell in a church.
Exactly. Thanks for that, Andy. It was a perfect picture. But then if you're two persons doing that, you need to really time when you are. And I think that I've tried it and it's super difficult. Sometimes you jump into each other. Sometimes you grab on the same place. And I think in the end of the Nord Stream race, we will see perfect timing of this. But now in the beginning, it will be something where you have to get to know each other as the two bowmen up there.
Well, it's really a game of three halves, if I can say that. There's the front half, there's the middle half, and then there's the Danish, who are just way, way back.
It's been an expensive one for the Danes, and before we saw they were approximately 500 meters away from the first spot here, and that's expensive. And I hope they're normally having a positive spirit on board, and I hope they can keep that.
So the third and fourth boats just about to go round. It's Russia leading the Finns, and the Finns paying a high price for that.
Those two could have a little battle now because they're quite close. So it's kind of like a party between the Swedes and the Germans in the front, and then we have the second party going on, which is between the Russians and the Finns. And they will definitely. It's not sure that this will be the exact ranking. It will probably be the Swedes or the Germans winning this race, and then it will be a battle about the third spot for the Russians and the Finnish. Here we can see actually what it said. Oh, before it just said in the distance that it was super close between the Russians and the Finnish. So, and every point counts. It's as we said before, the Nord Stream race has 3 trophies. It has the overall winner of the Inshore races. So the Inshore races in every stopover, and then it has the overall winner of the offshore races, and then also these 1,000 nautical miles in the Baltic Sea, and then also a trophy combining these two, the inshore and the offshore. So every second counts, every meter counts, and so they will definitely try to see if the Finnish right now, for example, if they can get the Russians now towards the finish line.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll be fighting really, really hard to get back one of those places at least.
To get the CISO on board.
Yes.
Yes, and yeah, here we just switched to the overall graphics.
And not very big boat speeds downwind. These boats are capable of such big speeds downwind, but if they're doing only 7 or 8 knots of boat speed downwind, that probably means there's only 6 or 7 knots of wind speed.
Yeah, I think you're right, and they don't really want to go higher to try to get more speed because they have to go so low anyway to get down to the bottom mark. So it's kind of like it's not about gaining the most speed; it's also about gaining a lot of depth towards the finish line. So they seem to be quite on the similar track. All these 4 boats we have here in the picture, that they're all kind of like finding this perfect angle between speed and depth, and this is what they are all aiming for. The skipper all the time wants to go deeper. Can we go deeper into the course? Can we go deeper into the course? He asks. And then the spinnaker trimmer goes like, oh, I don't have enough pressure. Please stay high. And then when he gets that extra little piece of nut into the sail, he says, okay, now you can go a little bit lower. It's okay. And this is the communication they have the whole downwind.
Yeah, that is the key bit of communication between the spinnaker trimmer and the helmsman, isn't it?
And here we see how close it is between the Swedes and the German. And I think actually the Germans have a quite sweet position there.
Yeah, it looks like they had a better jibe. They came out of the jibe with more speed.
And also, yeah, it's 70 meters counting downwards of distance between the Germans and the Swedes. And I think the Germans, maybe it's the camera angle. Yeah, it probably is because the camera is driving a little bit forward, but it looks as if the Germans actually also have a little bit of better speed. Here we see it's just counting downwards all the time. Here, the distance between, now it's down to 57 meters between the Swedes and the Germans. Oof, this might be the vital thing for the race finish, this actually, Andy, what we're watching right now.
Yeah, I mean, the Swedes aren't running away with it right now. The Germans are certainly on the attack.
Yeah, and
I think the Swedes are back up to speed now, but they didn't. It took them a long time to build the boat back up to speed after that last maneuver.
Yeah, and then also again this communication between the helmsman and the spinnaker trimmer. Right now the helmsman just wants to go deep. The Germans are there up there taking his wind, and the finish line is somewhere down there in going deep. Compared to the wind, so probably they squeeze that a little bit too much. It's better for him to go a little bit high and get the wind, because speed is king in these light conditions. And if you're losing the speed, we've seen that with the Finnish ones on the last downwind, it can actually cost you a couple of positions. So right now that's going to be everything for the Swedes. The Russians joined the top 3 party, it looks like, on the graphics right now, maybe.
Yeah. It looked like they've got good angle at the bottom of the screen. So are the front 2 getting a little bit too caught up with themselves and ignoring perhaps the charge of the Russians on the far side?
Yeah, KSSs are definitely the slowest right now on our graphics there. We can see, and I think it's because of the stress of this with trying to go deep, and maybe it's worth it losing that 0.5 knot compared to going deeper, but yeah. Oh, it looks as if the Germans are really, really strong out there. They have free wind. I just think their spinnaker looks more happy in some way. Do you agree with me? Can you see what I mean? It looks more out and like flying, and
The Swedish Jenica looks a little bit limp at times.
Yes, a little bit tight.
If I was trimming that Jenica, I'd be asking my helmsman to steer up towards the wind a little bit more.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that is the...
They've just done that now.
Yeah.
They look healthier now.
You think they are listening to us now in the
It seems like it.
stream?
I wonder if
Hi there, Sweden.
got... Yeah.
Hi, Germany. No, but it's... but also, again, we can see that the Germans and the Swedish, the distance between them sideways is then getting shorter and shorter. And this situation is the most stressful the Swedes have had today, because it's not sure that they will win this race. Only 50 meters apart from the Germans, and...
But I think they're in a stronger position now, the Swedes. They have gone a little bit more bow forwards, and I would feel more comfortable now than I would have done 30 seconds ago.
Really? I wouldn't. If I was on board the Swedish team, I would literally be super nervous. I mean, I was always saying something else, but I'm not swearing anymore on this live. No, but I think it's quite stressful for the Swedes, the position they're in now. The Germans are...
They're jibing, aren't they? So
yes, they are.
Simultaneous jibe, so now the Swedes have to...
Now, you know what's vital now, Andy? This jibe just has to be the best jibe in the world, otherwise the Swedes will lose to the Germans. This is going to be the race-winning maneuver. The Germans had a great jibe.
They did.
Yes.
They did.
Oof, and the Swedish are suffering.
It wasn't terrible, but it took a while to get it fully set, didn't it?
Still not fully set. We still don't have the front part of the Jenica fully. There it goes. Yeah, this is let us see. How is it's only 42 meters behind them now. Oof,
so, yeah, they lost 10 meters on that jibe.
And I mean, again, the Swedes looks as if they can maybe breathe in front of the Germans now with the wind, but they are having a lot of turbulence. That's only 30 meters now between them, and it's not this is a difficult position for the Swedes. I'm glad I'm not on their boat yet. I'm going to be there tomorrow for the offshore race, but this is very stressful, and you can see. I think maybe they were like, we're going to jibe. No, we're not going to jibe, because the people now they're just trimming the weight, I think. So that maybe there's a sign of more pressure. 35 meters between the Swedes and the Germans.
It was down to about 30.
Yeah, so I think the Swedes got a little bit of more, because they just put a lot of manpower up in leeward side again. So maybe they're breathing just in front of the Germans now. And where are the Russians? I think maybe they are more to the right. The Finnish are alone there in the middle of the course. But according to our stats, they're on the 4th position. So the Russians must be out here in the bottom corner of our...
I don't know. I just wonder if...
or maybe they lost the track.
Yeah, I just don't think they're appearing.
Yeah, they are. Happens sometimes. It's seen before. And we can just... oh, no, they are. There they are. Oof. Okay, I think we can have another exciting battle between the Finnish and the Russians, actually.
They've really gone far out to one side of the course, haven't they? I mean, the Russians have really staked everything on that side of the course, and they haven't given themselves any tactical options now.
But we saw in the last race, the last Inshore race, that the Russians are more like, I think they're willing to take some risks to actually trying to gain those last positions. I think they think like, okay, we can't lose to the Danes anyway. And yeah, so maybe they're just really trying to see if they can even overtake the Swedish and the Germans by this. So
I don't really see that there's a lot of upside to what they're doing. It just all seems to be like risk and not much potential reward being out where they are.
You're probably right, looking at the distance between the boats right now.
Well, they need to be thinking about the Finns in 4th. They need to be protecting to make sure that the Russians don't drop from 3rd to 4th. And at the moment, the gap is healthy, so that shouldn't be a problem. But they are far out to one side.
Yeah, and the Swedes are actually gaining and gaining and gaining. I can't believe that the Germans just let them go like this, but the Swedes must have found some extra gear or something, because they're now leading with 125 meters instead of the 30 we watched after this jibe. So great job from the Swedes there to just accelerate, and they did really well after the jibe. They went way faster and higher, it looks as if. And I think that's actually key. Don't go too low in these conditions. All the time be high and have, think like a 49er sailor, as you said before, and just, be high and in speed. Speed is king.
Absolutely. And once you've got the speed, then you can start to sail the boat low again. But if you never fill the Jenica, you never get that speed.
No.
But that was a good jibe by the Swedes.
Really good one. And they need to remember this jibe for other stressful situations, because this was a beautiful jibe. And even though there's a lot of other sailors boats around you, you need to be able to do these jibes.
It's crazy how they managed to stretch so much distance again on the Germans, who were so close to attacking them. But the Swedes really have found their legs again, haven't they? And no one's going to catch them now. They're just meters away from the finish. So the Swedes just about to cross the finish line, and after nearly giving it up to the Germans just 5 minutes ago, after a couple of stressful jibes, the Swedes have done it. They won the start, and they're going to win the finish.
What an amazing thing for the Swedish to experience this after actually having been fifth at the last race. The first Inshore race, they are now first in the second one here outside Kiel.
Fantastic for them. And the Germans some way back now. I don't know quite how they managed to drop so far back after being so close on the Swedes and seemingly jibing the boat better than the Swedes at times. I don't know why Germany dropped back so far, but still second place, that's still a very good race for them.
I think if I should defend the Germans, I think that the Swedish just managed to jibe before the Germans took their win, so they could actually breathe in front of them. And, of course, there was some turbulence after the jibe, but I'm not sure what the Germans could have done there. But, I think they look happy about their second spot. And here we can see if you should take the overall Inshore race rankings, it is the Germans that are in the lead. And tonight, this is one of the things we will celebrate. It will be... the winners of the overall winners of the Inshore races today will get a trophy at this opening dinner tonight.
Okay.
So
as things stand, that would be the Germans.
Exactly.
But one more race to go after this one, and some big gaps afterwards. So we got Russia coming in hard on that ley line. Leviathan sailing team lining up to cross the line in third place.
Yeah, it seems as if even though they went far out to the left corner, it seems as if they didn't really lose or win anything on that. They just, still in the third position. And the Finnish really, really have had a tough race. They were in the second or third, I think, around the first top mark, and they dropped all the way to fourth. And, their boat speed on the downwind has really cost them this race. So too bad for the Finnish, who won the other race, are now fourth in this race, having a jibe there in the picture. And the Russians crossing the finish line. The Russians who won the Nord Stream race 2018, and this new team is trying to defend that title. And right now they need to step it up if they want to do that. But it's the first day of the Nord Stream race, and we have 2 weeks ahead of us, so a lot can happen during those weeks.
So the Finns looking a little bit slow as they come across the finish line, but they're not going to be caught by the Danes, who had such an awful start to this race, never got back into it.
Yeah, they definitely had the Finnish they went from like second or third to fourth, but the Danes were not even in the game at all at any point. They had a bad start. They got a punishment. They had to do a penalty after the start, and they never got into the game. And it was a very expensive start or race for the Danes, ending up fifth. So I hope that with the Duracell rabbits as we know them, that they will actually change this into the next Inshore race, because we'll have one more, right?
That's right. We've got another race coming up. And I'm just scratching my head as to how they're not managing to get off these start lines. I mean, there's only 5 boats. Surely shouldn't be that difficult, should it?
I think it's quite difficult, actually, Andy. And knowing, I mean, we talked earlier about the changes, like being able to approach changes as a sailor is a very important thing to deal with. But the changes are also knowing the momentum and how the acceleration and everything is in your boat. So these teams only train 2 days in these boats, and Peter Vaar, he has never raced in this before. Some of his crew members has, but as a helmsman, to be able to go full speed towards the starting line can maybe be a little bit frightening on day 3 on the water. So maybe that's the case. But Peter Vaar is such an experienced sailor. He's sailing everything from Dragon, that's a long keel, heavy keel boat, and then he's also racing like Meltis 24 and J70 and stuff like that. So he should be able to transit quicker into the boat, I would say.
Okay,
so I hope he will.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so congratulations to Sweden for winning that race so convincingly.
Yes.
They nailed the start, and that set them up for a beautiful race around the course. Nice to see the Germans taking the fight to them towards the end, but somehow or another that attack didn't last for that long. The Swedes were up to the job, they were up to the pressure, and they won the race pretty convincingly. But this is just day 1 of a 2-week competition across the Baltic, 1,000 miles from Germany, across to St. Petersburg at the far end of the Baltic Sea. Let's have a look at the 2018 edition last year, give you a flavour of what's in store for the next 2 weeks.
Nord Stream Race, a 1,000 nautical mile offshore race through the Baltic Sea, from Germany to Russia. The Nord Stream Race is the ultimate offshore challenge for teamwork, performance, endurance, and passion. Every crew has the same equipment and tools. Only skill and teamwork make the difference in performance and finally winning the Nord Stream Race. To qualify for the Nord Stream Race, first each team has to win their national sailing league. In 2018, the Russian team from Lord of the Sail Asia were unstoppable and demonstrated their extensive skills in offshore sailing. The Nord Stream Race passes through 5 great cities: Kiel, Copenhagen, Stockholm, Helsinki, St. Petersburg. The long-distance race connects 5 unique cultures. 100 sailors from 5 nations are battling for the trophy and the title Best Yacht Club of the Baltic Sea. A race that takes every sailor to his or her mental and physical limits. Nord Stream Race, connecting Baltics through sport.
We are excited.
We are prepared.
I can't wait to start.
Let's sails.
Shaping the team.
I'm anxious. Let's go.
Team is king.
So we have one more race to do today. It's the final Windward Leeward race of the first day of the Nord Stream race. We've just seen a dominant victory by Sweden, who won the start of the previous race. So we've seen how important the start is.
Definitely.
And we're hoping that the Danes are going to watch what the Swedes did and come out of the blocks a little bit faster in this race.
Yeah, the start was vital for the Swedes, and also they had great tactics around the course and took that second win. So amazing job from their side. But now we have the third, and it's gonna be the vital thing for today's overall winner at the Inshore races. 3 we're gonna have in total. So right now it's the Germans in the lead. If you take the overall of the first and the second Inshore races, let's see if how it will be after the third race.
Okay, so the Germans in Germany right now. Let's go out onto the water and see what the conditions are like. So still pretty light, and we are looking at is that the Swedish boat there? It is, isn't it?
It is.
So the winners of the previous race, just checking out the line, making sure they've got their transits, sighting along the line just to make sure that they know as much as possible where that invisible line on the water is. And it's quite a short start line, so not a lot of room for 5 big boats to line up next to each other.
No, we talked a little bit before the break that these starts, they're not that easy to time, and now we have 2:45, 2 minutes and 40 seconds to the start, and this is the thing. You have to know the speed in your boat, the acceleration, and then also how long it will take to sail from where you are to the exact start line. So the starting is a thing, a technique that will take you many years to learn. And I know some of the best sailors in the world are still dealing with this to try to exercise. And these sailors we have here on board the boats are super good sailors. And we saw in the last start the Danes made a really bad start, and even though they have super good sailors on board, this can happen. So I hope this time we'll see a good start from all the sailors here, and no one over the line either.
So we're sighting along the line from the left-hand end, from this orange flag through to the committee boat at the far end. That's where the race officer is standing, and he will be sighting down the line as the gun fires to make sure to see if anybody is over at start time. We had 2 boats over in the race that happened earlier this morning, the welcome race, along with 300 other boats taking part in Kiel Week. We're at the start of Kiel Week, so the Nord Stream race coincides with Kiel Week, the biggest sailing regatta in the world, and we saw how busy that water is during this week. We had commercial shipping getting in the way of the race earlier today. There were numerous other yachts to avoid. It was incredibly busy traffic, but now we hope that on this race course that no one else will be sailing through the middle of it, that it will be a clean race that we're going to see coming up in 1 minute's time, as we see Germany lining up for the start, jib flapping, trying to keep the speed off, wanting to get close to the line but still giving themselves enough runway. The Danes hanging further back, and the Swedes also hanging further back. So the worst starters and the best starters somewhere towards the back at the moment, and the Finns closest to picture, and just behind them, just see the top of their rig, it's the Russians.
And now the Germans look as if they're going a little bit deep to try to accelerate the boat. They're definitely the slowest one among the 5 right now, and now they're building up speed because you need to keep in control by having a little bit of the speed in the boat. Only 25 seconds to go, and it is very, very important now to get this time and distance correct. The Finnish are also starting. You can see the bowman of the Finnish boat is saying, go, go, go. There's so much space to go, just full speed. And it looks as if the Germans and the Finnish will have a good start.
And not sure if anyone's actually going to be up on the line. We can't fully see the line from this angle, but it looks like a good start for the Germans, a good start for Finland.
Exactly.
But not for anybody else. Actually, no, Denmark, not too bad at the far end. But best start has to go to Germany, I would say.
Definitely, and they were also the ones that were building the speed first and were highest up on the line. And this has definitely been you call it a banana start when you're far away from the line, or like a banana shape. But this was like just, I don't know, a banana flat.
Well,
banana,
it was the inside out of a banana. I mean, I don't know, but
none of them were close to the starting line. Maybe they got a bit frightened from earlier on, but
who got the worst start? You see, who got the worst start?
Who?
Sweden.
Oh no, Sweden! Come on.
Winners of the previous start, winners of the previous race. That's Sweden. Already bounced out.
No.
Couldn't afford to stay on starboard tack because there was too much bad air.
And now dead last in this race already. It's only a couple of meters after the start. They're already 50 meters behind the number one in this race, the Germans here in the picture. Oh, what a bummer. I mean, Sweden, we just talked about, they're so good at starting, blah, blah, blah. And now look at them. They are not...
I was saying how good they were at starting, how bad the Danes were at starting. Well, it seems like the Danes have been listening to our commentary and they've bucked up their ideas. And
I think that's what they're doing on their iPads out there, Andy. They're not like these GPS marks, everything. It doesn't matter. Just listen to Andy's and Susa's tactical advices on the Nord Stream Live broadcast. That's it.
What else do they have to do out there? It's not like they're busy.
No, exactly. No, it was a great start from the Danes. They started all the way to windward side of the starting line, so at the starting vessel, and they weren't over when the start went, like when the start shot went off, but they were over the line with speed, and right now they look as if they're on a good course as well, so it puts them in first position.
And it looks like they have a bit more pace than the Germans. I think it's slightly deceiving there from what we saw from the camera angle, but it looks like the Danes might be a little bit higher and a little bit faster than the Germans.
Yeah, in a second we'll probably get the speed, but you can see all the time the Danes are aiming. It's all the time, like now it's 25 meters, and it's been counting up a little bit from starting on 10 meters in front of the finish. So I think here we have the speed. They're quite similar, all the boats, a little bit more than 6 knots.
But at the moment, I'd say this looks pretty comfortable for Denmark right now.
Yes, and also if you talk about covering up and so on, they're covering up the two boats that are around them. If we see in the bottom left graphics, we see the gold boat, which is the Danish one. And then we see the silver and the gold that are just to the left of them. There's the Germans we have here in the picture, and a little bit here to the right, we have the Finnish. So they're covering up their two biggest opponents right now. And I'm quite sure, if I know Peter well, he will probably like to take attack at some point too, because the Russians and the Swedes are out to the other side. And yeah, but we'll see. It's...
Well, he's got 3 other boats going his way. He's got 1 boat going the other way. So surely the safer tactic would be to sort of protect the side that they're going out to, wouldn't it?
I think the Russians are tacking to the same tack as the Danish right now. So that's nice for the Danes. Then they have everyone with them on the same tack, and it's a cover-up of the whole fleet. And as we see in the overall standings up in the left corner, we can see that before this race, the Germans actually went in as the leading team into the overall Nord Stream Inshore race result today. But right now, if they finish like they are positioned right now, the Finnish will go away with the win of today's Inshore races overall.
And the Germans had a really good start, but they don't seem to have been able to match the pace of Denmark. We saw Germany just in picture, just off to the right. And they tacked some way behind the Danes. So I don't know why the Germans were struggling to get up to speed, because they've looked really fast upwind in other situations.
Yeah, here we can see on the information that the Danish also have a quite good speed here.
And the Germans definitely don't, because everyone is over 6 knots.
Look here, Andy, on this Finnish boat. Like, if they're listening, I would say them go a little bit more forward. Can you see it's almost as if they're too... too much backwards in the boat.
Yeah.
Do you agree with me? Like a lot of people there, and it's.
Yeah.
I think it's.
You look at the Danes; they've got a stack of people further forwards. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's. Yeah, there's some trimming there to do back and forth, and again also just keeping low. They're all kind of standing up a lot, and
you can really see it in the bows of these boats. You can see when the bow is trimmed correctly with these boats.
And here we have only 6 meters of distance between. It's not even. It's like bow to bow if the Finnish would tack right now. So this is this is exciting, Andy. Wow. Well, I love it when they're bow to bow.
I wonder if the tactician on the Finnish boat will get excited enough to pull his hands out of his pockets. I mean, that's when we can tell when he's getting really excited.
I think he's just trying to control his shaking hands or something.
No,
no, I'm just kidding. No, he's maybe he's freezing.
I wish that we were able to see what's going on board the Danish boat, because those Duracell bunnies must be getting quite excited being at the front of the fleet now.
Yes, and I must say, after being so unlucky in that first race and then having this bad start in the second, they deserve to get a little bit of pride today as well. Finns tacking there.
Oh, it's gonna hurt, because those nasty Danes have tacked right on their face. And, well, there's nothing that...
they're going directly into the other tack.
Oh, ouch.
This will be...
Let's have a look at their boat speed. If we could get back to boat speed on the top left, it'll be interesting to see how much the boat speed suffers on the Finnish boat.
Here we have it. It's they're almost up again. Both the Danes and the Finnish have been a little bit...
So, down to about 4.5 knots. The Finns, and so 2 tacks in quick succession. Not much choice about that, because the Danes put them in a really, really hard spot, tacking where they did. But the Danes really just doing that to consolidate the lead that they already have. I don't think that we can take it as read that Orlandska Segersalskapet is in the lead. I don't think they're even as close to the Danes as what we're reading there. I think the Danes have to have a clear advantage after that double tack by the Finns.
And this is the Swedes here in the right side of the picture. I think it's the ones that had this really, really expensive start and are now 150 meters away from this other leading boat in the race. We also have in the picture the Danes. And here the Swedish are tacking. Wow, this just shows how expensive a bad start can be. And the other race, it was the other way around. It was the Danes having an expensive start and the Swedes having this king start, as you say, the 2 royal yacht clubs.
That's true, isn't it? Yeah. We've had a king at the back and a king at the front in both races, just opposite ways round.
Yes, exactly. And not only are the 2 royal clubs of Denmark and Sweden participating here at the Nord Stream race, but they are also the hosts of the 2 stopovers in Denmark and Sweden. So it's not always like this that the host club is the participating club, but after 2018 it is like this for Sweden and Denmark.
Yes, no, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
It must have been quite strange on previous occasions for the Royal Danish Yacht Club to be hosting a Danish club from a different part of the country.
Yes, I think so too. But I've been involved a lot in the Royal Danish Yacht Club as well, and their philosophy is that they have to help all Danish sailors. So I think they did it happily anyway. And it's an amazing event to get past your hometown and your club. A lot of members can come down and see these amazing Clubs 150s. There's always an open boat, I think we call it, where you can come down and visit the sailors. So in Copenhagen, I think it will be on the 24th or 5th or something, where you can come down and actually see the boats and meet the sailors. On the 24th, it will be at 4 o'clock, I'm quite sure. So you can. So every stopover has these involvement of members and guests who can come out and see the boats, and also VIPs, as we've seen previously on the races. There's always VIPs involved in the inshore races, and sometimes a VIP wants to join the offshore. We were told about this previously. Who's choosing this lifestyle, right?
Well, the thing is, though, once you've experienced that life offshore, it makes the rest of your mundane, boring life seem a lot better than it did before, didn't it?
Exactly.
You just start to appreciate the simple things in life. And you know the bit of these boats that people always want to know the most about? We talked about it earlier. The most interesting part of an offshore boat is its toilet.
Yes, exactly.
Or lack of it, because
Yes.
it doesn't really exist.
No, exactly. And I'm wondering what these VIP guests are actually doing, because they're not used to that. The sailors are used to maybe not having the best facilities everywhere they go. But, I mean, the VIPs maybe haven't sailed before. Last year there was a Russian VIP joining one of the offshore legs, and he's never done sailing before. And I was really impressed that he actually took this into consideration to join the offshore. But he was the happiest ever. He said it was a great thing to follow. So apparently it can be rewarding for some people to experience. And these sailors, this is all a dream for them coming true to be a part of this race. And I know from the Volvo Ocean Race sailors that I know, or now it's called the Ocean Race sailors, I know they are all. They say that you're changed for life after you've done this race. It's you experience things in nature and with your teammates that you will never forget. And they say something like you sail out of the harbor as a boy and you sail into the finish line as a man. Like it seems as if it's a big experience. And I think the Nord Stream race is actually giving the sailors a little bit the same challenges out there. Even though it's a shorter race, it's definitely the same challenges they are experiencing.
Yes, so in fact, the Baltic race is nothing like as long as around the world race, but actually there aren't many races in between in terms of length. So this one's 1,000 miles long, around the world is 32,000 miles, but there aren't many races longer than 1,000 miles. So this is actually one of the longest races in the yacht racing calendar.
Yeah, I think it is. At least it's one of the biggest one we have, and yesterday we spoke with a lot of sailors, both some youth sailors aboard these teams, but also some youth sailors visiting here, because there's also the Youth Champions League is also going on here at the Kieler Woche right now. And some of the youth sailors came by yesterday, and they said that their dream was to win the leagues in their countries to actually be able to sail the Nord Stream race, to be able to have a stepping stone into the bigger boat racing. So, I mean, and the sailors being aboard the teams now are actually saying this, that they want to do ocean race, they want to do TP52, Fast 40, all these bigger boats, and for them they see this as a networking perspective and also a good chance to get some experience in. So yeah, the Nord Stream race is definitely a good training if you want to do the Volvo Ocean Race, or the Ocean Race as it's called now.
Well, meanwhile, back in the short course racing, it looks like Germany, despite coming off second best to Denmark earlier on off the start line, somehow or another Germany has woven some magic up the second half of this leg and looks to be in a controlling position and back in the lead ahead of Denmark. So they tacked out to the right of Denmark, and maybe they found some better breeze out that side. Whatever it is, Germany have done a fantastic Houdini act here, and they've come back.
Yeah, it's actually nice to see a little bit of a lead change here while we were talking. It helps talking maybe sometimes. No, we've been doing that a lot today, but no, the Germans actually deserve to be quite up there because they had an amazing start now, and for them to be here up in the lead is definitely I think they proved at the starting line that they were able to be doing so. Here we have the Danes preparing the asymmetrical spinnaker around the top mark, and in this close look between the Germans and the Danish, it says 7 seconds.
7 seconds, yeah.
So not meters. I was like, what? It's not 7 meters. I could see on the screen, but it's 7 seconds. So that's almost nothing. They will be rounding almost simultaneously around this upcoming top mark.
And you look at Denmark compared with Finland. Finland now potentially last. That all goes back to that double tack that Denmark forced them to do. Just that extra manoeuvre, and they've dropped back from being second or third, or I would say at the time maybe even second or third at the time, back to last place. So just that one manoeuvre was really very expensive for the Finns, and I feel sorry for them because I'm not really sure what they could have done about that.
No, it's it is of course a part of the game, but they've had the last two races for them have been really hard to watch, and they just have to keep up the sisu and try to fight themselves back. The Germans in the lead.
Just to explain that sisu for people who didn't hear earlier.
Yeah, it's sisu, I think they say in Finnish. It's kind of like a word where if you translate it to English, it means fight or fight on or do whatever you can. And it's like an old, I think, war slogan or something the Finnish had. This is, I know they still use it, and maybe it's their motto. I don't know. Okay,
well, they certainly need a bit of it now because they're in last place. But Germany now in picture. Nice hoist of the Jenica. The foredeck crew have got the jib down. Everything's in place. We haven't seen these staysails used. We saw that staysail come out very briefly in the welcome race this morning. I didn't even know they existed until we saw one rolled out. I wonder why they're not bothering using them downwind.
No, maybe it's going to take too much of the wind now. They're wanting to go so much up. I don't know, really, Andy. I think that's the reason, to avoid too much turbulence with all the sails. But at least now they are just using one spinnaker. And Danes, it's hard for me to see that they've lost 70 meters on the Germans. Maybe they had a not so good hoist. And it looks as if the Swedes, who had the worst start, actually has climbed up on that third spot and aren't that far behind the Danes anymore.
They were a long way back not that long ago. I don't know how they've managed to do that. But they were on the right-hand side. I think the Germans went past the Danes from the right-hand side. I wonder if there was a wind shift or better breeze on the right-hand side towards the top end of the course. I can't believe that the Finns are so far back in last now. That's really tough on them.
Yeah, it is. And
the margins in this race are much tighter than they were in the previous race.
Yeah, true, actually. And I thought it would be different this morning going into this talk show. I was almost about to say to this show. And it's been... Like, I thought it would be way tighter in these races compared to this morning. But this morning they were actually closer to each other, even though there were so many obstacles and it was a longer race. But yeah. But now if we see on the graphics down in the bottom left corner, they are all lined up pretty close, it looks. So
nobody has jibed out yet. Looks like the leaders, Germany, are just setting up for a jibe at the moment.
And remember, they have to go around one more lap around the course. So they're running, they're sailing towards the bottom gate mark now, and then they will go upwind again and then downwind again. The Danes here in the picture as well, hunting the Germans, having better boat speed right now. The Danish, they've had that lately a little bit better than the Germans. Maybe they're a little bit higher. So Peter Varre, the helmsman on the Danish boat, his son is actually a very good 49er sailor, been sailing in the Olympic fleet, I think, for 100 years, I was about to say. No, but he's one of the good ones in the 49er fleet. Jonas Varre, and won a gold medal in 2008 in the 49er. So I think maybe Peter is a little bit inspired and could be one of the sailors who wants to go a little bit higher to get that wind.
Okay.
I could imagine.
Yeah.
But right now...
You think he's had some coaching off his son?
Yeah, maybe his son is watching us and calling down and say, hello. No, I don't know. I
wonder if he might be here later on at Kiel Week, later on this week, actually, in the 49er. I'm not sure.
No, he won't, actually. I spoke with Peter yesterday about it, but So I think a lot of the Olympic sailors are going to... That's, of course, a different topic, but the Olympic sailors are going to Japan soon.
Yeah, okay, so some of them giving Kiel Week a miss this year because of that.
Yeah.
So Germany going into a jibe. Let's see how effectively they can get that huge Jenica, 2.5 times the size of Suzanne's apartment, through the jibe. And if only you could move house as quickly as that.
Yes, but look, I think it was a really good jibe there, and you could see how they actually they stopped the boom from coming over, and that's actually the first time I've seen that, and I think it's a way of not creating turbulence of the boom coming over and the mainsail giving like a smack into the rest of the sail.
That makes sense.
But also to kind of like jibe the boat. So you go deep, and then you fight to get the Jinnaker around. And then in this way, you can actually gain some speed by getting the boom out and breaking. Yeah, so interesting maneuver, actually. It looked beautiful, and they had a great jibe. So maybe that is could be exciting to see some other jibes and see how their technique is. I love that German jibe.
We're getting a thumbs up from Germans for the German jibe.
Yes. And yeah, here we see the little bit, the split. We have the Danes still on the second spot, but right now splitting away from the Germans, and here they go. Let's see this jibe. Look, they're not holding on to the boom.
I see what you mean.
And now the Germans did it way better, because the fact that now the Danish are doing this with the boom to trying to flap the top batten, you're still bothered by it. I think there it flapped.
Maybe that's the other reason for doing that.
Yes, because then it comes
boom.
over with speed, and then it goes like flam.
Yeah.
I really like that from the Germans. I'm going to ask them later on how they got the idea and stuff like that, just of curiosity. Or maybe it's a thing, I don't know.
I think it's a fairly standard TP52 kind of maneuver.
That wouldn't surprise me, yeah. But it just surprises me because we have some on the Danish team who are also experienced Clubs 150 sailors that they're not using that technique. Maybe I should tell the Danes, though.
I don't think it's difficult, is it? It's just knowing to do it.
Yes, and you need to know who is holding the boom and also in which wind powers you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Germans did really well. And but according to our graphics, the Danes are in the lead. Do you really think so, Andy?
Oh, yes, I'll say so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. At least
let's have a little bet.
Exciting. It's
let's
only
have a little bet.
8 meters of difference between their, according to our GPS calculations here.
So you don't believe in the Danes, but I do. You believe in the Germans.
They're on the same course. Yeah, it depends a little bit. Let's look at where they are compared to the mark.
Oh, okay.
It is.
Yeah. Not much ley line left.
No,
by the look
thing
of it.
is that I think the Germans need to get another jibe in. If at some point we'll probably zoom out of in the graphics or something like that, so we can see where the Germans are compared to the bottom mark. But if the Germans need to soak depth, they might lose speed compared to the Danes.
That looks how they're sailing to me as well. The Germans look like they're trying to be a bit greedy.
Yeah.
And sail a little bit too deep.
Here we go. We have the graphics there, and the Danish can actually go have a little bit of this 49er and go have a little bit more speed. So exciting.
If in doubt, go too far and give yourself too much to do with an asymmetric. Don't try and sail deep for too long.
We found out that right in the last race.
Yeah,
watching
with
the
fins.
Yes.
It was disastrous for them. I mean, it's not that bad for the Germans, but I think they're being a little bit greedy to try and soak down to the leeward gate this far out.
Yes.
I think they should go for speed, and they should accept they've got an extra jibe to do. And when they do jibe, they'll be on starboard anyway, so they'll be the attacking boat. So if they're trying to make this in one, I think that's a tactical mistake. There's quite a gap back to them, so it's more or less a match race right now. I say that right now because we see things change quite quickly sometimes. And
here you can see as well in the speed that the Danes are more this, as we talked about 49er before, they're a little bit faster all the time. Oh, now it's not showing. Yes, it is. They're all the time a little bit higher and a little bit faster. And it is just vital to not give away the speed in these conditions. So don't risk it with going too low compared to having the speed.
So a knot or just over a knot of difference. But will it be enough for Denmark to be able to get past Germany?
Yeah, it's but this will at least open up the whole game again for us, because they're kind of like gonna, as if it's a new start now at the gate. So very, very exciting to see how they will do around the bottom marks, because the maneuvers in this bottom mark will also be very important, because you need to keep the speed in the boat, and you cannot drop the kite in the water or anything. Now we can see the two teams preparing on the deck to get everything ready to round the bottom marks. They're not far away from, I think soon in the right of the picture we'll be able to see them.
The Danes have the boom very high up in the air on the mainsail, so they got quite a loose leech on the mainsail, matching the profile of the loose leech of the Jenica.
Yeah, I would maybe say it looks a little bit strange, but I think
Boat
they're
speed
fast,
is good.
so probably it's good to have this a little bit. And as you said, it matches the asymmetrical spinnaker well. I think we're seeing a little bit, as we saw in the last race with the finish, that the Germans are really trying to go low, and and it's going to cost
Big
them
mistake.
the lead. Yes,
Big mistake.
they should have taken that extra jibe in that costs, and it's for them. They're going to give away the lead and maybe the win of this race right now.
And it was an unforced... They didn't need to jibe as early as they did. They could have jibed later.
Might be a wrong ley line call, or it could have been like just that, we're going to just see how it goes, something like that. But yeah.
Well, they jibed a long way before the ley line. So I think at the time it felt like a good, safe,
place,
tactical decision.
Yeah.
But the Danes have called it and won. They've only done one jibe on this leg.
Well, you believed in the Danes all the time, Andy, and you were right. They have way better boat speed. The Germans had tried to soak depth, and it was not a winning course for them. So the Danes...
I mean, there's a clear message there for this inshore racing. We've seen it twice now, with the Finns make that mistake, and now we've seen the Germans make that mistake.
Yeah, so if any sailors are watching it on the iPad now... Speed is king during the downwinds. No, it is definitely, I think it's a lesson that's learned also now from the...
Not a great drop of the Jenica there by the Germans. It looks like they're going to get away with it, but it's a bit sloppy.
And then we also have the jib still a little bit squeezed by the Jenica. This is not a fast rounding for the Germans. Not the rounding they wanted to after being overtaken by the Danes because of lack of speed here in the last third of the downwind.
No, and in the end, it's been rather an expensive part of the race for the Germans, giving opportunity for maybe the others to close the gap. For the Russians in third, some way back are the Swedish, but a long, long way back are the Finns, who have suffered so much after actually getting a pretty decent start in this race. And the first half of the beat was fine for them, but when the Danes tacked on them, that's when it all started to unravel for Finland. And the unfortunate thing about our sport, Suzanne, is that the rich tend to get richer. It's the opposite of cycling, where the people at the back don't have to pedal.
No.
You just let the people at the front do all the work. Yeah. It's the opposite in this sport, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And you can, right now we can see that the Danes can just like take a little bit of the wind from the Germans, and as you said, become richer compared to them. And right in a couple of minutes, they'll take a decision. Oh, the Russians are going the other side. Should we just cover them? Or, because now the Germans have also tacked. So I think the Danes are going to look and see what the other ones around the bottom mark are going to do. Oh, I think actually they're attacking now. So as I know, Peter, he's a very he's not taking a lot of risks. So I think he's doing a great decision now by just covering the two others. He doesn't want to take the risk of throwing away this lead after having this, hard loss in the last race.
So the Danes putting a loose cover on their German rivals, and the Germans also wanting to protect their second place from the Russians out on the far side of the course. So it's all going rather nicely for the Danish team at the moment. And this is a nice recovery after a bit of a poor start to the day by the Danes, being late for the start of the welcome race this morning, mucking up the race of, the start of race 2, but absolutely nailing the start of race 3. So they're learning, and as Peter Vara said, we are looking to improve every day.
Yes, and they have these two Duracell, the rabbits as we called them before, twins, with them on board, and they are experienced Clubs 150 sailors, and they will try to teach the team everything they can, because they'll go all the way to Helsinki, and then they have to go to another race. So their aim is to just teach everyone else all they know about the Clubs 150s. So, yeah. If it's going to be in this speed, they'll improve their racing. It will be good for the rest of the Nord Stream race.
Sorry, do they come back? When do they come back to the race?
No, they're going to be all the way until Helsinki.
Oh, I see.
Yes,
right.
The twins. So, and this is important, these three races, because tonight the first prize-giving ceremony will take place. The overall winner of the 3 inshore races today will be honored and have a prize handed out by one of our VIPs we saw earlier today kissing on the back of the boat, Gerhard Schröder. So it will be, these 3 races will calculate the overall winner of today.
Okay.
And also it will count in the overall scoring of the Nord Stream race 2019. So the Danes definitely needed this to not be dead last after today.
We're not, I know it's really, really early days, but we're not seeing one dominant force here, are we? We're not seeing one team that's looking head and shoulders better than anybody else.
Now we actually, it says as if the Russians are taking over the Danes here in our scoreboard. And because you said the dominant, last year we had the dominant Russians, and they were so professional, and they had done a lot of training, and you could really see that they were good in taking away the maneuvers. So they were all the time, they were a little bit dominant, both in the inshore and the offshore races, and they also went away with the win. So, but let's see if the Russians actually will go away with the win. That's the thing we were talking about right after the bottom marks, Andy, that we wanted the Danes to attack and to protect themselves from the from the Germans and the Russians. So could look as if it's been a little bit of a header for the Danes there.
And yes, you just wonder if they're falling into the line of the Russians a little bit. And I don't really think the Danes have done tactically anything wrong here. But no. the Russians have done very well by just choosing the opposite side of the course.
And right now we can't see it in this picture, but in the overall we know that the Royal Swedish Yacht Club, the Swedes are going to the other side of the course, and right now they are, not yet, but when we zoom out in a bit, we can see that the Danes are also a little bit left in a dilemma, because they need to figure out, okay, who do we want to cover up? Do we want to cover up the Russian or the Swedes who are on the other side, and also look as if they are actually going fast out there? So sometimes it's not good being in the middle of the course and not being able to decide. So this is actually a little bit a tough one for the Danes, I would say. I think we get the Swedes to the right side of the.
And
there they come. Look, I think that the Swedes are not far away from the Danes. We can see they moved up on the 3rd spot as well in the overall results. So
the Swedes really banging the corner and seeing what they can find on the left-hand side of the course.
Yes, and I'm happy I'm not in Peter Vara's shoes right now, because they are. It must be tricky and deciding who do I want to cover. Do I want to cover the Swedes, or do I want to cover the Russians and the Germans?
It would be horrible for the Danes if they were going to be passed on both sides of the course by Russians on the right and Swedes on the left.
Yeah, and as you can see right now, according to our measurements, the Danes have lost 40 meters to the Russians, and only the Swedes are only 40 meters behind them as well. So it's super close.
So it's a 3-way battle with Germany not far behind. The only boat that's not in the race really at the moment are the Finns way at the back. So we've got the Danes left of picture, Germany down to leeward on the right-hand side. So getting tense on board the Danish boat. I wonder what the energy is like on board that boat now.
Yes, I would love to see what they are. We have some onboard cameras on that boat. It could be amazing to see. But I was just thinking before it said that they're 10 meters apart right now, and I was just checking what is 50 foot, because the Clubs 150 means that it's 50 foot long, and in meters that means that it's 15.2 meters, the 50 feet. So that means that when they're 7 meters apart, they're not even a boat length apart. This is pretty amazing after this long of racing. So
it is, isn't it?
So yeah, and right now it says as if the Swedes are in the lead. Andy, oh my God, this is actually getting exciting here. This last bit of the top mark and the downwind ahead of us. The Danes tacking there. Are they on something that seems like a ley line? It's difficult to say. From here, let me see. No, not according to these.
Not quite.
But let's see if the wind is a little bit has changed, maybe a little bit. And the Russians right on their hip.
They could well be on the ley line there. I mean, they're really not very far off.
No, exactly. We have to see later on some camera angle. But look, right now it is a battle between the Swedes, the Russians, and the Danes. And I almost couldn't stand it watching the Danes losing this from first to third, because they did such an amazing job so far. But and they were left in a dilemma. And we actually liked that they were covering up the Germans and the Germans and the Russians, and now they're punished by that and actually hunted in by the Swedes on the other side. So
well, the Russians were some way back. I didn't think they were that much of a threat, and then it shifted to the right quite quickly.
Yes,
and suddenly the Russians have had a sniff of the front.
Yeah. But let's see when I think that the Swedes maybe half tacked or something, so we will probably have some indication of how much in front they will be. Here we see some speeds.
And if there's another tack to do here, then the Russians definitely have the Danes, don't they?
Yes, that's true. And we need a camera angle from the back of the boat to be able to see if they're on the ley line. Don't see any Duracell twins jumping around that boat right now. So maybe they're quite happy. I don't know.
Let's just spare a thought for the Germans as well, because the Germans were leading down. They were leading around the first mark of the race. They were leading down that run. They made a bit of a tactical error, but not a terrible one. Just a slight error. And now you find them back in fourth place, not even in the hunt for first right now.
No. Yeah, but you can see they're very focused. You see one of the Duracell twins there. You see this blonde hair, right? You can see him trimming there in the leeward side of the boat, and the other one is standing there in the back. And of course, the helmsman Peter Var as well. It's so vital where the ley line is. If the Danes are on the ley line, they're going to be fine compared to the Russians. But if they're under the ley line, they will be on third spot, as the graphic shows right now.
Let's see these Swedes as they come back into the left of our screen, and they must be converging, I would think. The Swedes will be on port tack, and the Swedes were some way back. Remember, they had an awful start to this race, so the fact that they are even in contention for winning this race is a sign of just what an incredible comeback they've had after such an awful start.
Yes, and I mean, if they are going to win this race today, they're going to show that they are super strong in the inshore races, and because they did a great job in the second inshore race today, and if they're going to go away with the win in this race as well, it will be really, really strong from their side.
That's very true.
Yeah. But right now it says as if the Russians are in the lead, but I think it's going to be so tight between these three top boats. Probably, yeah, it's nice that the graphics there in the top are all the time changing between the distance and the speed, and I think they're almost bow to bow, if you ask me. It is from looking right here from the graphics. Yeah, we look what it's like 1 meters, so it is bow to bow literally. It's a half boat length between the first and the third boat right now.
So it's a tough call for Sweden. Yeah. They're on port tack. They have to give way. What are they going to do? They're surely going to have to duck, aren't they?
Yes, but now soon the Danes will meet them on a port tack. So, wow, this is... Andy, this will be the highlight of the day. I can feel this top mark is just growing on me. I love it. We'll have a top mark rounding between 3 boats that are less than a boat length apart. And can't wait to see that. The Danes tacking there. There will be the ones coming in on the port, but I think they hope that they can just make a leeward tack on the other ones, but
I think the Russians are in a strong position here.
There is actually a lot in this. I get a déjà vu now from the national leagues that it's sometimes a good thing to maybe now Peter Vaar thinks I don't care if I'm first or second or third. I just need to come around that top mark with speed. Because the thing is that sometimes a lot of the sailors are fighting to get that first spot, but then they're putting themselves in a position where they don't have enough speed. So maybe it could be better for Peter to go like behind the Swedes and the Russians and then just come around with speed. But right now it looks as if he could maybe go in the front. But
it looked like the Danes were just about to tack. So the Danes are going to be coming into this mark on a thin line.
Yes.
And if that's the case, Peter Vaar is not going to achieve what you were just talking about.
No, exactly. He's tacking there. We can see in the graphics. And now it's depending on where he is. If he's on a tight ley line, he might be run over by the Russians and the Swedes if they come with better speed. But if he's on a good ley line, he can just build the speed towards that mark number 4. Yeah. Now it was as I said.
Yes.
Andy, unfortunately for the Danes, the Russians come with more speed and but the Danes are still in the game. They have this little offset mark that they need to round, and
without that offset mark, it wouldn't be so bad, but it's going to be hard for the Danes to live there now.
And now the Swedes come in with a good speed from behind. Oh, Andy, this is actually so exciting, and we will have to see this spinnaker hoist will be, I think they're saying on board the team, come on, guys, it's the most important spinnaker hoist of the day.
And why aren't the Russians going for it more quickly? I'm surprised the Russians didn't go for that hoist a little bit more
maybe
quickly.
Maybe the Danes are... Come on. Oh,
so
wow.
Who's
look
going
at
to get
that,
this kite set first?
Did you see that kite hoist of the Danes?
It looks like the Danes are going to get their kite set first, and that will be critical.
And
but it's stuck behind the jib. And the Swedes also quick, but they've got a bit of a wrap on their kite. So could be the Russians might get stuck on the outside now, because it looked like Denmark managed to get the Jenica set first.
Yes, but on the other hand, Andy, also the Russians are able to now control if they want the speed. The Danes have to go low to try to survive. And this is so close. We only have 14 meters between number 1 and number 3 here. So they're actually, the 3 of the boats are almost bow to bow. This is...
Sweden in a position to attack here now, and maybe if Sweden can get a piece of Denmark, then they might actually be able to control the other 2 boats. If Sweden can stay in that position and hold them to the ley line, then Sweden has a position, has an opportunity to win. Germany coming round now. Germany will be thinking, these 3 boats are slowing each other up.
Yes.
Maybe this is our opportunity.
Yes. I think you're right, Andy. They're thinking like, okay, you guys just have your own party and we will try to see whatever we can do. I don't know if the Swedes jibed there. According to our graphics, they did.
Maybe they couldn't stay there. Maybe they would just felt they couldn't attack from there. So their best attack is actually to go in the opposite direction.
Yes.
They did round in third, so they sort of got nothing to lose, really.
Except the Germans, of course, but more, I think for them it was maybe that they felt that they got their wind taken a little bit from the Danes, and they maybe saw that the Germans came around fast. I don't know 100%, but yeah, at least these 2. Right now the Danes are in the 3rd position, so the Swedes are somewhere in between these 2, if you should look on the results right now.
So
super close still.
Yeah, Russia's done well. I thought the way that we saw those hoists playing out at the top mark, I thought Denmark was going to be able to just keep its nose ahead of Russia, but it hasn't worked out that way.
No, and I'm a little bit surprised that the Danes are not faster. The last downwind, they were actually quite fast. And we were talking about Peter Vaar and the 49er trimming and stuff like that. But maybe maybe he's trying to annoy the Russians a little bit by going low. But yeah, that just means, I think from the Swedish, it was a very, very good decision to just, we're going to go for free wins and go and sail our own way down to the finish line, because look at them right now. They're in first spot compared to coming out of the top mark as a third.
Yes. Whether that's the real first spot, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
They're not actually that fast through the water at the moment.
No. I don't know if that's the one we see in the picture there to the left.
Yes, it is, yeah.
It's difficult to say if they have less power in the boat, but it's always funny to see these two boats. You can clearly see that you have two Genekas, and right now they both look happy and filled, and it's all about trying to have these filled. Yeah, we talk, like I've been a spinnaker trimmer myself previously. It's all about having these shoulders. Like you need to have the energy up in the spinnaker. So if you look now at the Danish, and also now a little bit on the Russians, then this height is falling down, and that's not good. Then they need to go up again a little bit. So I think they're actually squeezing their boats a little bit too much.
What, they're trying to go too low, are they?
That's my suggestion.
That's always the temptation when you've got a boat ahead that you're trying to attack. You try and make life difficult for them by going lower than them.
Yeah, it's easy for us to sit here in the studio and talk about what to do and not to do. It's always a thing you want to be like high to get the speed. You want to go low to come as close to the finish line as possible. But this is the decision and this balance that the sailors have to think about during these downwinds.
So they'll be having that conversation constantly between the helmsman and the spinnaker trimmer, just maintaining the optimum VMG.
Exactly.
The right balance between shorter distance and higher speed.
Yes.
Because you can't have both.
Exactly. That is the key, and that is the communication that's going on right now. And it surprises me a little bit that the Swedes are still in the lead, but they are the ones with the less speed.
It's strange,
let's see how that will turn out, because they've had less speed. You said it like a couple of minutes ago. So
they've been under 6 knots pretty much the whole time, and most of the other boats are over 7 knots.
But maybe the fact that they're laying by themselves and don't have to think about anyone else is maybe giving them enough free wind. But still, speed is speed. So we have the two. According to our stats now, they're on second and third spot, and the Danes who got that super good start and have been leading all around the course almost so far, they had to give a little bit away during the last upwind.
The Danes have that strange profile on their high boom and their loose leech again.
Yes,
it's almost like they've got the boom hoisted up on a halyard or something.
Yes.
I don't know if they do. I don't know if that's a trick of Club Swan 50 sailing. And
I don't know.
Or maybe you can push them. Is it one of those solid vangs where you can push the boom
upwards
in the air?
It looks at least as if it's a loose vang. And if they're pulling it up on purpose somewhere, I don't know. But it's definitely higher than the others. And I think it looks a bit weird looking at the angle of the boom, but on the other hand, as you say, on the sail it looks pretty nice compared to the Genaker. So maybe there's two questions we have to remind us to ask: the Germans about their jibes and the Danish about their boom.
Yes, even though it looks weird. So there's the Russian boat. The boom's quite low. There's the Danish boat. The boom is a little bit higher up in the air.
I think we're going to see a jibe now from the Danish.
Will they have learnt to jibe their boom late? Let's see.
No one's on the boom. It will come over as it comes.
The boom has jibed before the sail, the Genika's jibed, so that makes the Genika set a little bit harder.
But actually, I must say this was a pretty good jibe from the Danish side, even though they didn't do the German trick. And look, everything was filled. The mainsail, the batten flipped over in the first try. So
we're actually seeing a very high quality standard today of the way these boats are being sailed, considering that they've only been in these boats for 2 days.
Yeah, and I remember last year I was watching the races in Helsinki, the Inshore races, and I think the boat handling this year it has stepped up compared to last year, because I was surprised that in Helsinki that it had taken them so long and they still didn't get the maneuvers right. And I think this year it's not so windy today, so that's helping them out a little bit, but still it's also difficult to jibe these big 250 square meters Jenakers in the light winds. So they're doing a great job, I must say.
Yes, but as you say, it is quite light winds, so they're not being tested super hard in these conditions.
No, and also they're not tired after. I mean, they've been on the water since 8:30 this morning, but they're not tired because it's not tiring conditions only for the head. So, yeah. Let's see there.
Both boats looking very similar in trim and setup right now. So this is what's playing out on this side of the course. And there we see, it looks like Sweden may well be in the lead. The way that graphic, it's showing up as, so the leader bar on the graphic is showing the Russians in the lead, but the leaderboard is showing the Swedes in the lead. That suggests things are very, very tight indeed.
Exactly. I was just about to say that.
If the computer can't even agree with itself, then
it's
it must be close.
On these, if you look at these lines across the race course right now, it suggests that the Swedes are somewhere in between the Danes and the Russians. We can see here on the side now that they're in the beginning of this light stripe, and they're almost simultaneously. Look at the Russians and the Swedes now. It's really great graphics here, I must say. Also the fact that they have they even look like the branding in real life. So it's.
I think the Russians are just going to get ahead, and I think there's going to be a terrible mess between Sweden and Denmark.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see what I think. I think that it's also about having your head cold. Who do I think? Yeah, the Swedes are cool. They're cool sailors, but the Russians we've talked about, they have some 470 Olympic experience, and they're also good at keeping their head cold when it's important. Let's see when they meet. I can't say, Andy. It's too exciting.
Are you losing your cool head?
Yes, or I'm actually cold. So cold here in Kiel that I'm all the time cool. No, but at some point soon we'll be able to get the overall standings of today after the Inshore races to see what it will influence on the overall rankings, if the Danes, Swedes, or the Russians actually have a chance to.
Oh, hang on. Oh, so the Swedes are suddenly they're well ahead. I thought it was going to be a lot closer than that.
Yeah, and now it looks as if the Germans actually are. Oh, Danes! If this is real, it's.
Oof! Ouch! That would hurt, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would.
Whoa! So we got 4 boats coming in. I mean, I was only really half joking when I said that they're going to get caught up in their own battle of 3 and the Germans were going to come charging in. I didn't really believe that was going to happen.
No, but I must say the Swedes look as if they're in a sweet spot there. They are heading towards the finish line. They're covering up the Danes, the Russians there, breathing in front of them. The Germans are probably not going to be a threat, I think. So.
Are you sure about that? Oh, for the Swedes.
Yes, for the Swedes. But the Germans definitely can come in there and put some extra herbs on the Russians and the Danes. They're actually crossing the Danes there, the Germans, and let's see how it will be with the Russians. Oh, and then also because the Germans are known for their super good jibes, they're going behind the Russians there.
I don't think Germany's going to be able to overtake Russia. I think it looks like Sweden is going to come home for its second win of the afternoon. After getting an awful start, but a fantastic, perfect finish for Sweden. What an incredible finish for them. Followed by the Russians, and such a close race in the end. And then coming round in fourth place, way behind the first three, are the Germans with those superb jibes and a fantastic finish for Germany to be able to get back into the hunt and cross in third. And then the Danish...
Oh, that's a photo finish. We need to...
who did actually get... I think it was Germany. I think Germany... I'm going to go against the computer. I think Germany got third. And the Danes, who looked like they were going to bring home the bacon, end up at the sausage end of that race. Can you believe that?
Yes, it is going to be. I'm texting the PRO right now.
Well, the computer finally agreed with what I thought was Germany coming third and the Danes leading that race for so long, finishing fourth. I cannot believe what has happened to Denmark, and I feel so sorry for them because I think mostly they sailed a really good race. I don't really know where that went so badly wrong for Denmark.
No, it's this last downwind was so expensive, and actually I must say, I think it was that top wind approach. They gave away their starboard rights. They came around the top mark with the less speed. They had a good set, but it wasn't enough. Like, they were covered by the two others, and the Swedes could jibe away free, and the Russians could like breathe out to leeward of them. So they were kind of like squeezed in the middle. But
well, you called it, didn't you? You said how important it was, and you actually also said, I don't think Peter Vara is going to do that because he's got that experience from the J70s and the leagues.
Because this is what we see in the leagues all the time, that the new ones that enter the leagues, they're so desperate to just get around the mark as number one. But normally, maybe going around as the third spot, like if you come like
the Swedes,
super close, then you're actually gonna be the fastest around the mark, and you're gonna be in control in the downwind. But I must say the Danes have had a super tough second upwind as well, because they
tried to cover
both sides, and they were stuck in the middle. So really, really tough race for the Danes.
Tough for them, but I mean the Swedes, what a phenomenal race from them.
Yes,
stuffed up the start. I mean that was the bit they did badly, but that makes their win so much more impressive. To be able to come back from a poor position like that and to end up winning that race, quite incredible.
Yeah, it's must say it's been an amazing day to watch them, and they also tried to get a good start in the first race today inside Kiel, and actually it turned out that they were over the start line. But if they had the start right there, maybe they would have won that race as well, because their inshore skills has really turned out well for them today.
So the only female in the race, the decision maker on board the Swedish boat, Sandra Sandqvist, has made some fantastic tactical calls today, and that has been one of the fantastic things to watch today. Is just how powerful Sweden are able to be in these inshore races. Whether that translates into power out on the offshore legs of the Nord Stream race, that's a completely different question, a very different type of racing. I
just got an update from the race committee out there saying that it was the Germans winning over the Danes in that photo finish, so only 3 seconds apart. So
3 seconds.
Yes, that's exciting.
Okay, well, it has been an incredible day, hasn't it?
Yes.
That welcome race this morning against 300 other boats. We were very much focused on R5, but we saw so much traffic, commercial traffic, other boats, tall ships. There was a lot for the sailors to navigate. They might breathe a sigh of relief when they actually sail out of Kiel tomorrow for the start of leg one to Copenhagen. Maybe life will get a little bit more simple. But it is fantastic to be part of Kieler Woche. So many thousands of sailors here competing across so many different types of boats. But whilst everyone else is staying here in Kiel, these 5 teams on board these Club Swan 50s are going to be sailing 1,000 miles through the Baltic, through to St. Petersburg in Russia. Is there any particular moment of the day that you want to highlight from any of the 3 races that we've seen today?
I would say I would like to highlight the finish there. It hurt to see them having problems with the speed there in that downwind, remember? So I think like the speed on the downwind, and actually also this last situation we saw with the Danes, losing it all in that last top mark rounding. I think that's the 2 highlights I will have of today.
Yeah, we've learned a lot about the tactics of boat racing on short courses, and so it'd be interesting to know if the sailors watch back through on some of this video coverage today, because it's quite educational.
Yeah, maybe we can tell them, Andy.
Well, we did.
Yeah.
We're not going to say it again. I don't tell them what they should have done when you see them at the dinner this evening. Exactly. Suzanne, it's been a pleasure.
You too, Andy.
I wish you well on the rest of the Nord Stream race, because you're following it all the way through to the finish. And that's going to be a lot of fun, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure too.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed the coverage today. My name's Andy Rice. It's been a pleasure to bring the coverage to you with Suzanne today. And we wish the 5 teams competing in the Nord Stream race the very best for the next 2 weeks.
Thank you so much for watching.